Hi folks, how are you doing? In the seventh round of the Sinquefield Cup 2014, the first game to finish was the one between Magnus Carlsen with white pieces and Hikaru Nakamura as black. Hikaru having a horrible score against Magnus Carlsen. These games are always interesting because Nakamura has been on the verge of beating Carlsen lots of times lately, but he hasn't managed to do so. Almost always losing painfully. Let's see what happened today. Remember, Magnus is white, and we saw a Slav defense by Nakamura today. After knight c3, he took on c4. Okay, not the pure Slav here anymore. This could be going into some sidelines, some interesting sidelines, and effectively, so it does. b5, this is going very sharp, kind of keeping the pawn so far, but really this is going to head for something interesting, as you will see. a4, and now black pushes his pawn to b4. Now all the moves that doesn't blunder the knight has been tried in this position. Knight to a2, b1 to e2, but knight to e4 was played by Carlsen. Of course, white is willing to recapture the pawn as soon as possible and have a great game, because black has spoiled enormously his queenside pawn structure. But that's the reason black has to play very actively in this position. He just can't sit and wait to keep the pawn back, because positionally he would be very, very bad. Queen to d5 attacking the knight, which retreats to d2. And after c3, b takes, the knight goes back to its original square, back to b1. Black is up a pawn, a passed pawn on c3. Of course, it could be very useful to create some tactical disturbance for white, but also looks really weak without much pieces for black having been developed to protect it. So still, this is somehow theoretical. There are some games in the database. Queen a5 is Hikaru's idea. Try to use this diagonal, try to use his queen to disturb white king, use this pawn, etc. Queen c2 looking very normal, stopping this pawn from moving, protecting his king. And now a couple of moves here which have been tried. There was some discussion on the live stream. Jan Gustafsson thought knight a6 was the best move here, with the idea to go to knight b4. This has been tried by people as white. People like Giri and Lamy, Dutch GMs, have played this with bishop a3, so protecting b4 with a complex position, but I think it favors white, at least slightly. White is going to recapture the pawn without much problem, I guess. But the move Hikaru played, and which actually Alejandro Ramirez liked here, instead of knight a6, was the move e5. Very concrete move, opening the position. Okay, it has its pros and cons. The bishop is now playing, but on the other hand, your own king, the black king, should be potentially weak. So not sure if it's the best, but okay, it's a move. It's a concrete move, a very active one. Hikaru trying to play aggressively here. Knight to f3 seems logical. Now he plays knight to a6. Still knight b4 is the idea, I guess. Carlsen took on e5 with the knight, and now the knight goes to b4. Okay, some nice looking pieces here for black. Of course, if white is not careful enough, this could be very dangerous for white, and this king could be finding himself in lots of trouble very soon. But it's Magnus Carlsen playing white. You're not going to assume he's going to be checkmated on losing the queen in 3 or 4 moves. So just queen to b3. Now bishop to e6 attacking the queen, but he develops a piece, stops the attack. Bishop to c4. c2. Okay, this pawn finally advances here. At least it's doing something. The diagonal is kind of open now. Some discovered checks are in the air. But Magnus keeps calm here. Bishop takes e6 is what he plays, allowing this double check with knight d3. The knight and the queen are both checking, so whenever you have a double check, the king must move. King to e2, attacking the knight, by the way. and Hikaru decides to take on e5. D takes, but now after f takes e6, it's really not that clear if that e5 move was a great idea by black, because actually one might think here whose king is more weak because, or weaker, because I mean this king really seems under pressure as well. The queen here on e6 seems to have enough counterplay at least. Knight to e7 was played, and now the knight on b1 is of course under attack, so it's getting developed to d2. c4 is a interesting square. It could go to d6 on the way. So here Nakamura tries to decide a queen exchange. He offers it, and Carlsen happily accepts. Knight takes, and an absolutely favorable position for white, I think. I mean, white is up pawn, and he has good chances to get more for granted, because c2 and c6 are really weak. As much as this pawn could look dangerous, I think it doesn't have the enough support and should be considered rather weak. White king is even more centralized, which is actually not a minor factor here. Black doesn't have that many developments, so this should be absolutely a very good position for white with lots of chances of winning this. Knight e4 was played here by Magnus, so rook b8, of course. Okay, good control of the b file, but white still has resources. Rook b1 is not possible after bishop to d2, controlling back rank. The rooks are connected. Now bishop b4, Nakamura tries to keep, catch up on development even if he exchanges some pieces. Rook h c1, white has to focus on eliminating this pawn. Bishop takes, knight takes, and knight goes finally to b4. Okay, you're protecting the pawn so far, but now look at this maneuver by Carlsen's knight. Knight to f3 to go to e1 and attack c2, simple chess. This is the weakness black has. You must focus on eliminate it, so that's what the world champion does here. King to e7 and knight to e1, attacking c2. Now rook h d8, interesting move, and a little subtlety here. Some fine move here for Magnus. f4, protecting e5, cementing his pawn structure here in the center. As taking on c2 right away. I mean, it's still good, I think, but it would allow black to jump to d3 with his knight, attacking the rook and attacking e5 at the same time. So after, say, rook cb1, Hikaru could take on e5. So there is some difference from that position to this one. White is in no hurry. He plays f4 first, defending e5. And now after a move like c5, now he can take on c2 without that much worrying about his e5 pawn. Still knight d3, attacking the rook, which goes to b1. Knight back to b2. And after rook a2, Nakamura can take on a4 because there are some tactical threats not to lose the piece. He's threatening to check on c3, forking everything in the world. Of course, Magnus can first take here, and this is an exchange of pieces after knight to c3 check. King goes up to f3. Hikaru takes on a2. Magnus could have changed here rooks, but I think it's more useful for him to keep rooks as he has a more active piece here, and he's absolutely able to attack black's weak pawns with his rook. So it makes sense to keep the rook here. Knight b4 was played. Well, this is losing another pawn, going into what I think is a absolutely hopeless position for black. I think most people would resign here, but well, it wasn't an easy day for Hikaru Nakamura. He was lost almost right out from the opening. Really tough day at the office, so he decided to keep playing. Well, good for us because we're gonna see really endgame technique lesson by the world champion here delivered for us. Rook a8. Nakamura will try to push his a pawn. Basically, his only try to have some counterplay, but it's not enough, of course. King e4, a5. The rook goes to a4, and now king f7. Black can't do much, while Carlsen will keep pushing his pawns. King back, f5, h6, but hey, I got an up pawn. h4, king f7. Now check with the pawn, king f6. Now check out this nice idea. The rook comes back to d4, and if given the opportunity, he will just checkmate Naka's king on f7. So the king goes back to e7. Well, that's a check on d7, sending this king to the back rank, and now simplifying this, forcing a pawn endgame, which is absolutely one for white. Check on e7 with the pawn, king to e8, forces the rook exchange with rook to d8 check, even if giving up pawn, but this is simplifying into an absolutely one endgame for white. King to d5, king e7, g5, a4, but of course white is in time to stop this passed pawn. Remember this rule, the square rule. Whenever you're into this square made by the diagonal of this pawn to the back rank, or to the first rank in this case, well, whenever you're inside this square, that's good news for the king. H takes, king d6, e4, protecting f5, but king e5 and king b4, and the fat lady sank. This was enough for Nakamura. This is absolutely winning, of course, for white. No discussion about this. So tough day for Hikaru Nakamura, who, as far as I know, I think didn't even speak to anybody from the press or anything. So he just walked out playing the chess club of St. Louis. So there it goes. Tough day for Nakamura. A nice day for Magnus Carlsen, who gets his second victory in this 2014 Sinquefield Cup. Thanks for watching.